James Gunn is following in DC tradition and snapping defeat out of the jaws of victory, because the internet went wild when Cavill announced his return, and it went wild when The Rock said that he wanted to have a God v. God showdown with Cavill, Superman, and his Black Adam. So there was hype, there was excitement, and James Gunn was like, nope, not happening. We're just going to cut everybody's knees out from underneath them. Gal Gadot's not going to be returning as Wonder Woman. Cavill's not going to return as Superman. Rock is done as Black Adam. Ezra's done as the Flash, thank God. And if this doesn't go the way that Momoa hopes, not only is Amber Heard not going to come back as Mera, but he won't be back as Aquaman. And he admits that it's in the audience hands. We have the power yet again. It might not be very much, but money talks. So if you don't want Momoa to walk, maybe think about supporting him. The truth of it is, I mean, the audience, if the audience loves it, then there's a possibility, Momoa said, at the chance that he might play Aquaman in the future. But right now, I'm like, it's not looking too good. Okay? So what he's saying is, he's going up against the bad will from Gunn, utterly destroying everybody's hopes for the future of the DC universe, because they thought that, hey, if Cavill's back as Supes, Black Adam, The Rock as Black Adam, they have a pound for pound fight. Ben Affleck is done as Batman, which crushes me, because he was the best iteration of Bruce Wayne and Batman. He balanced it perfectly. He did it so well, and it's just devastating that he didn't get his own trilogy. Like, these men worked so hard, and they can deliver. They were just never given the tools, which is a crime on its own. But I digress. Right now, Momoa is fighting against all the publicity saying that this is going to be a flop, this is going to be terrible, there's no point in watching it because Gunn is going to fire him as Aquaman anyway, so there's nothing moving forward from Momoa's Aquaman. There's no reason to go see it. The whole Amber Heard fiasco, Warner Brothers, again, snapping defeat from the jaws of victory. They parted ways with Johnny Depp and not Amber Heard. Big mistake. They fired the wrong person, for sure. They should have recast her. It should have been a done deal. But if what's true that Momoa supported Depp and openly mocked Heard on set and asked Warner Brothers to cut her out as much as possible, like have her in there the least amount that they possibly could, I think that's going to have a lot of goodwill for definitely the Johnny Depp fans. And Momoa has his own fan base, and I think that it's much larger than the Amber Heard haters, but I guess we're going to find out. But he has said, he's not saying that it's not looking too good, meaning the movie is bad, but he is saying it's looking like people aren't going to show up for it because the preview numbers, the pre-purchase tickets, aren't looking too good. Some reason, I don't know if it's because of the culture war, I don't know if it's because there's so many people waiting to hear from their more trusted YouTube channels or personalities. If you're waiting to hear their take on it before you go see it, I completely understand, because you don't want to waste your money, and superhero films of late have been a waste of money. That is true to the core, but if James Wan can deliver what he did with the first one, my only real gripe being, outside of Amber Heard being a plank of wood and not having chemistry with Momoa, which everybody knows about, it really was two movies in one, because you had the fight for the throne and you had Black Manta, and I understand that he fused them together and Black Manta was being used as a tool, but it really could have been two different films that could have really set Aquaman up for success and definitely led to a very solid trilogy. It looks like with Aquaman 2, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, we're going to get a dual story, a dual plot line again, but it looks like it's going to be much tighter. I saw the last trailer, and quite frankly, I was blown away. If Aquaman 2 can stay focused and stay as tight as that trailer was, there is some hope. I was very happy with what I saw. You know, James Wan, he's got ties to a lot of horror elements, and that's why in the first one, we had all of these Lovecraftian elements. There was even a Lovecraft book on the table in the lighthouse, if you guys were paying attention to that. So those elements are there. He draws heavily from Lovecraftian stories and elements and visuals. So we see that again in a lot of these trailers. The monsters look fantastic. So if we can focus in on that, and if the motivation of Black Manta hinges on revenge and he's willing to do anything for it, and then you have Arthur Curry, who is, you know, the reluctant king, and he realizes that he can't half-ass this anymore. It's not just a job, it is literally what he was born to do. There might be some really good elements, and this could be a very good film. I've heard that there's a lot of people who say this is the worst DC film ever. I saw The Flash. I'm sorry. There is no way on God's green earth this movie's going to be worse than The Flash. I have not seen the movie yet, but I can say with full confidence it is not going to be worse than The Flash. Guaranteed. Take that one to the bank. I will absolutely state that here and now. I haven't seen it yet. I will see it in 24 hours, and I will give you as honest and unbiased of a review and a reaction after I walk out of the theater as I possibly can. But please understand, I'm going into this rooting for this film. I really loved what they did with the last trailer. If we can get a C+ movie, a C+ superhero film, I would be satisfied. If it's anything higher than that, I will do backflips, because this has not been the year for superhero films, but I really do think that Aquaman 2, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, could turn it around. And there's a couple reasons why. Everybody's like, oh, because you want shirtless Momoa. That is not actually it. If you watch the last trailer, and I said this in my reaction to the final trailer, what it looks like we get is a good dad trope, which has been missing from Hollywood for a long time. So here we have a father whose son is missing, and he is willing to burn the world down to go find his child. Awesome. Father who wants to protect his son. I'm loving it. I love the horror elements that I've seen, the Lovecraftian influence. Saw it in the first one, excited for it in this one, hoping that there is more. I am looking forward to the trope of this the child is the end of the bloodline. And so we get OG Willow vibes with this child who is the key, whose blood is the key to either salvation or damnation. And you get this introduction to the Black Trident, and you get more lore and more history about the kingdoms, which is great, especially if you're trying to sort of piece together what all happened, because in the first movie, you get some exposition and some explanation, but what I'm really hoping for Aquaman 2 is that they do dive into the lore a bit more, so you have that substantiation. If you have that solid groundwork, people are going to want more. That's what I'm excited for. And I know what a lot of other people are saying. The beauty of this fellowship is we can all have our own opinions. We can all do our own thing, and we can all like and dislike different things, good, bad, or indifferent. Obviously, I'm coming at this from a completely different perspective. But what I would say is if you like something, like it unapologetically. I mean, if you love the Marvels, own it. Don't be ridiculous about it and go on an attacking spree. But if you're really looking forward to something, admit to it. I think part of the reason that the pre-sales aren't that great is because people are embarrassed to admit they want to see this movie. I mean, if the Walmart store in my area is any indication, I will tell you, there's a ton of Wish toys, but there's like 4 Aquaman 2 setups, and a lot of those toys are gone. They're just like, they're gone. There's like 1 or 2 left. So somebody is buying these toys. Somebody is purchasing these things. Someone is excited. Why that's not being more focused on, I have no idea, outside of the fact that we've got Variety and Deadline and all these other mainstream media outlets talking about how it's not looking good. I mean, even this ET article, it baits you with it's not looking good. Okay, well, does that mean his shot at being Aquaman, or does it mean the film is not good? And a lot of people are running with the fact that, oh, Jason Momoa knows that the film is trash, so he's trying to warn everybody. That may or may not be true, but it doesn't sound like that's what he's actually saying. In fact, he says, I love this character and I'd want to play it for a long time, Momoa added. I kind of see where I'd want to go, and even in the next 10 years or so, like, there's a lot of cool things they can do, and I do enjoy the role and the world, so I mean, it just comes down to if people love it. That is legitimately what he's talking about. He wants to continue to play Aquaman. He wants to stay here. But, as we know, James Gunn is wiping the slate clean of pretty much everyone and everything that isn't his. He's not allowing it at all. And we have nothing from him. We don't have any projects from him yet. We have news about projects. We have his casting decisions. And some people have some stuff to say about that as well. Zachary Levi being among them, saying that James Gunn cast his brother in the DCU. So the Gunns are running rampant in the world of superheroes. However, the dynamic between James and Sean Gunn is notably different from creator-sibling duos like the Coen brothers and the Wachowskis, in that the former makes films while the latter acts in them and performs motion capture. It's hard to argue against Sean Gunn's talents as a performer, but the fact that he often works in his brother's movies seems like it might attract the occasional unsavory comment. And now one has emerged from within the DC family. So what Levi had to say was very brief, because he was sort of prodded and not goaded into giving an answer, but he did say, you know, when you're the brother of the guy who runs DC, I guess you get to play the roles you want. Because, of course, Sean Gunn has played Weasel and Calendar Man in the Suicide Squad. So there is a definite nepotism occurring. Take that with a grain of salt however you'd like, but I think between Momoa's comments and Levi's comments, it's pretty obvious that there is not any lost love. And Momoa doesn't want to go anywhere, but it looks like he's going to, because James Gunn is literally burning, like going scorched earth on everything that has been established. So, when Momoa first took the role of Aquaman in 2017, he managed to make an infamously mocked character from DC Comics and turn him into a truly cool, gritty hero, a feat Momoa proudly says was a really hard thing to do. And it was, like, when you see him in normie nip geek shows, such as The Big Bang Theory.
I said this before and I'll say it again. Aquaman sucks.
Which is a whole other video on its own. He's always the butt of the joke. He's always mocked. He's mocked outside of it. But if you actually watch the things, or if you actually watch the series, or you read the comics, Aquaman is incredibly powerful and not something that should be taken lightly. And so for Momoa to translate that onto screen is a big accomplishment, because there were plenty of people who were ready to continue Aquaman as a joke. And I think that, yes, the female audience obviously turned out to see a shirtless Momoa. We can make those cracks all day. But Momoa was able to do something that DC Comics had not been able to translate for a long time, and that was turn Aquaman into someone who was actually formidable, someone that you should be afraid of, someone who could control these incredible sea beasts and these things out of the sailors' nightmares, and could actually do this. And something that Momoa talks about in this interview, but it's also fun to just be the reluctant king and then, you know, getting past all of his ego and seeing him realize what he's meant to do. So again, he's getting past the idea of this is just a job, and he's really cutting into, this is what I'm meant to be. This is how I have to proceed. And I do care about this world and these people and this kingdom and my son. And I want what's best for all of them. So when we read a little bit further, however, as Gunn and Safran rebuild the cinematic universe for DC adaptations, Momoa hopes to remain part of their plans, even if it's not necessarily as Aquaman. If there's a place in their world for me, I would love to be a part of it, Momoa shared. This is my home. Warner and DC is definitely my home, so that's all I'll say. This man doesn't want to go anywhere. Cavill didn't want to go anywhere. The Rock didn't want to go anywhere. James Gunn is burning bridges. He is razing relationships and future contracts to the ground before they even have a chance to exist because of his own ego. It's a problem. Zaslav made a terrible decision bringing Gunn on. Yes, they got rid of J.J. Abrams. God knows how much money that cost them. It's probably why they're in so much turmoil right now. They probably can't afford to get rid of Gunn like they got rid of J.J. Abrams. Regardless, this has cost them so much. James Gunn's response to fans has been blunt, gaslighting, and just flat out cruel. So, of the latest, DC has almost no new movies coming in 2024. James Gunn has blunt response to the fan concern, as he always does. It's insane how this man treats fans who are customers. I mean, I could never imagine being in retail and speaking to a customer like this and expecting their business. But with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom's release date approaching, we're coming to the end of the current DC cinematic universe. The newly rebooted franchise under James Gunn and Peter Safran won't see its first big screen outing until Superman Legacy in 2025, meaning we'll see almost none of the upcoming DC movies for a year and a half. It's a long stretch compared to similar franchises, but James Gunn doesn't mind, and he thinks the hiatus will be a good thing. A fan asked James Gunn on Threads if he thought the lack of content over the next 18 months would damage DC as a brand, but Gunn responded that he did not. In fact, considering that DC is resetting everything, the time off will actually be good. I think it's great for us for the reset. While some sort of out of sight, out of mind fear is perhaps understandable, this is DC we're talking about. DC doesn't have the same clout. Cinema Blend is out of their gourd if they think that people are going to turn up after they've been repeatedly kicked in the gut and the lungs and other places. Superman and Batman will always be relevant, so it's hard to imagine people not caring about new movies with them just because it's been a while. And as Gunn himself says, it may actually be a good thing. Putting some space between the old Superman and the new Superman isn't necessarily a bad thing, as it could give the audience themselves a chance to reset. If you think that people are going to forget how you ripped the rug out from underneath them with Henry Cavill, you have another thing coming. Like, Momoa might have his fan base, Depp might have his fan base, but I guarantee you the Cavill fan base trumps them both. I don't know how or why that man has the following that he does.
Toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, it does, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Okay, I could see why people like what he does. I wish he would be given the chance to show what he can really do. That's not the case for Gunn. Gunn doesn't care. But I'm telling you right now, if you think that the Cavill fans are just gonna, like, control, alt, delete how you did him with the Superman situation, oh, James Gunn is in for a gnarly surprise, let me tell you. And they make it sound so small. Like, Cinema Blend, it just cracks me up. Some fans are excited and some are upset that the previous universe is being discarded, but regardless, people will be watching this movie. It doesn't really matter when it comes out. Talking about Superman Legacy, no, it 100% matters. It really does. I think DC bet on the wrong horse. I think it's a mistake to back Gunn. I could eat my words in a year and a half. We'll see. But you chose Gunn over Cavill, Affleck, Gadot, Momoa, and The Rock. I don't think very many people are going to be sad to see Ezra Miller go, and I don't think very many people are going to be sad to see Amber Heard go as Mara. But if Momoa gets canned like the rest of the previous superheroes from the Aquaman role, I really don't know that Gunn is going to... He's certainly not going to increase his goodwill, but it is expected at this point that he's gonna can Momoa. And I think that's what this article is referring to. I think that's what Momoa is referencing when he says it's not looking good. He's saying that no matter, like, unless this movie pulls out $1 billion, I do not see my run as Aquaman going any further, which is tragic because he clearly loves the character. I would just say, if you want to go and see this film, don't be ashamed of it. Own it. If you don't enjoy it, be honest about it. If you do enjoy it, be honest about it. That's the only thing that anybody can ask for. Just be authentic. Just be you. If this is something that you want, let people know. Again, I will repeat, I'm rooting for this movie. I really want to see Jason Momoa as Aquaman in the future. I really wanted to see Cavill as a more optimistic Superman and not Snyder's dark take on Superman. I really want to see an Affleck Batman trilogy. I mean, Gal Gadot got 2 Wonder Womans. Like, where are we right now? Ray Fisher sort of just kind of faded into the background, especially behind Momoa and Cavill and Affleck. I don't think he definitely wasn't given the opportunity really to stand on his own and show what he could do, even in the Snyder cut. So maybe he could have delivered, maybe not, but we're not going to know. And I think Zaslav made a huge mistake with that. But that's what I think. Let me know what you feel and think in the comments below. Are you excited for this? Are you hesitant about it? Are you not going to see it at all? Are you waiting to hear from some of your favorite YouTubers? And you guys will have my thoughts of the movie itself at the time of recording this in 23 hours and 10 minutes. So, I know probably by the time this gets up, about 20 hours. So hopefully, like I said, it'll be good. I'm rooting for it, but I will try to give as honest and unbiased of an opinion as I possibly can. God bless, Godspeed, much love. Mwah. I'll see you all in the next one.